Okay, the sapient paradox. What in the hell is that? This is Richard Nikoley, freetheanimal.com. It was something different, right? As many know, especially who read the blog, know I've been friends with Dr. Nikoley for quite a while, and I get his weekly newsletter, which I think comes out, if you're in the US, comes out about Thursday afternoon, and every week, once a week. For me, it's Friday morning here in Thailand. So I actually was doing stuff yesterday. I didn't read it till this morning, and which is easy to do since I got up at 2:30 after 5.5 hours of sleep. Go to bed early, get up early. And I read it, and amongst the other typically interesting stuff was a new idea that I'd never considered. Well, I suppose peripherally you consider it, from things like the expensive tissue hypothesis and Kleiber's law, which you can Google. I'll mention them briefly, but the sapient paradox is just a new twist on this, an idea. So there's two perspectives of it. The first is, what's this brain about? And what were the survival pressures? I mean, we tend to think of evolution and natural selection, and as a, nature affords various things, mutations or something happens, and then it perpetuates enough with offspring, and those offspring enjoy a survival advantage, and so that becomes the new norm, and so on ad infinitum. But it happens on such a enormous time scale that we never really we don't see it. We can see evolution easily, but you have to go to bacteria to see it, because they, I don't know, some of them go through several generations in hours. So you can see evolution right in front of your eyes, for those science deniers. Right. So yeah, the sapient hypothesis. What's with these big brains? What were pressures that brought those about? Because they're expensive as hell. I mean, what is it? A brain is accounts for 1/3 of our metabolic thing, and so for the 200,000 plus years that modern anatomically correct humans and humanoids have been around, up until 12,000 years ago, there's not really much evidence that it was of any benefit, at least in the archaeological records. You just don't see it. People were pretty much living in squalor, hand to mouth for, if you say 200,000 years Homo sapiens, then you are saying that 190,000 of those years didn't do much, right? And then you look at, so what about chimps and stuff, primates? Well, you consult expensive tissue hypothesis, Kleiber's law, and if you know Kleiber's law, that says that, for mammals, if you chart the metabolic rates, compare them with the expense of various tissues, that it's the same. It's the same. So, for instance, you know, chimps, monkeys, gorillas have smaller brains than us, so they're less expensive brains in terms of energy. But what makes up for that, such that our metabolic, our overall metabolism, baseline stuff, is the same, and that is the big gut. You know, big gut, small brain, big brain, small gut. Basically, how it goes. All right. So, so one could say, well, this paradox, sapient paradox. What? So not only did the brain get bigger, more expensive, but the gut shrunk as well. So that may offer a clue as to why, without anything really in archaeological evidence, such as, you know, civilization type stuff, you know, like buildings and, you know, separate bathrooms, toilets, you know, all the stuff that we attribute, which didn't come on the scene till about 12,000 years ago. Like in geological timescales, it's nothing, right? So so that's where we are with that. And then the second perspective from which to look at it is that why, oh why, if we've had these big ass brains for 200,000 years, thereabouts, how come it took 190,000 years to use them? Where's any evidence? I mean, the brains back then, 200,000 years ago, were just as capable of understanding complex, you know, high math and physics, astronomy, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, differential equations, multivariable calculus, statistics, all that stuff. So, where is evidence of it? How come? So, now, so this is just an introduction to a post I'm going to write. But as I've been chewing on this for a while, and I have a couple of ideas to put forth that would not necessarily show up in the archaeological record, and I wouldn't call them survival pressures as much as I would call them survival discoveries. In other words, I'll just give one clue. One clue. Maybe it wasn't the raw, you know, knowledge and everything like that. It was behaviors that turned out to be more advantageous for not only survival, but something else. All right, but you'll have to read the post for that. I ain't giving it away here. Okay.